What's up, YouTube? It's been a while since my last video, and I think I was about 8 days into my challenge at that point. And I was meant to do more videos, record more live trades, but I let my discipline slip. I stopped recording, I started skipping parts of my routine. I think I really underestimated how difficult it was going to be to totally reprogram my mindset. There's just a lot of mental resistance up here. So I failed. And I didn't fail the challenge. I ended up settling for a free repeat, and I'll explain why. But first, I wanted to share two ideas that came to me. There was two aha moments during this challenge. One is a practical idea. I know my trade management was weak, so I put all my results into a table and compared them to a projected 1 to 2.5 risk to reward. And the gap in the numbers is quite shocking. So my idea is run two challenges side by side. Account one, I'll manage like normal, and account two, I'll just leave alone to do a 1 to 2.5 risk to reward. And I'm going to use a trade copier to copy over the same entries. And you're probably thinking, why don't I just do one challenge and stick to that 1 to 2.5 sweet spot? But the fact is, I know myself. I know I can't help myself sometimes, and when my discipline's weak, I'm just gonna wanna interfere with those trades, which leads me on to my next concept, which isn't actually mine, but I borrowed it from a book about willpower. And if you ask yourself, what is the main cause for a breakdown in discipline? When are we most vulnerable to give up control? It's actually when we're faced with too many decisions. Decision fatigue is the main culprit. As traders, we're constantly making decisions in our head, even if we don't act on them. We're calculating outcomes, we're thinking, should I move this stop a little bit? Should I cut this trade early, etc., etc. And that constant noise degrades our willpower. And when it's time to act, there's no willpower left. Decision fatigue explained a lot of inconsistencies in my results. I recognize a pattern in my equity curve, almost like a steady, slow boom and then bust. And this happened like 3 times during my challenge. And there may have been some other factors that influenced me, like trading in December with the short trading days and whatnot. But in general, I believe this is going to hit home for many of you watching. So we're going to look into my metrics and we're going to go over those stats so I can break down what I think happened. So as you can see, I didn't really get anywhere during this challenge. In my last video, I explained I was hesitant, risk adverse. I usually grind my way up slowly in the beginning. And about half of the way through the challenge, I was up 3.5%, but a lot of frustration was building up. I was missing trades, mismanaging them pretty badly, and I started to become more impatient. At the same time, decision fatigue was accumulating, and I was fed up, time was ticking. So December the 14th, I took my first big loss. Up until then, I was trading really small size. And by the way, this is the comparison table I was talking about. We'll come back to that in a minute. So where was I? Yeah, SP 500. And I got stopped out of a trade about 30 minutes prior that would have hit my TP. So I guess that was another thing that triggered me. And I thought, I re-entered, I thought, F it. This is going to be an all or nothing day. And I wasn't really looking at the bigger picture. So I just went for the buy again. And of course, this time it dropped like a stone almost instantly. It was supposed to be 1% risk, but I moved my stop, broke one of my major rules, and like I said, breakdown in discipline, guys. Decision fatigue. I was tired of trading at that point, to be honest. I had it in my head, do an all or nothing trade, but if I actually had any willpower left, I could have cut the trade. The market was screaming, you're in the wrong trade, but I gave up control, and the 3.5% I grinded 8 days for evaporated and I was back at 100k. And this pattern of giving up repeated itself several times, as you can see. The funny thing was, on the way back up, I got into some killer trades, both with a lot of size. And it's funny how you can step up your size after taking a big loss. This pound trade, for example, this was a 10 lot trade and I sold it pretty much at the top of this 80 pip move. It was a news positioning move a couple hours prior to the Fed, and I did scale out all the way down to the bottom, but I took a big chunk of the position off way too early. And again, it's kind of funny how you can sit and watch a losing trade blind to the risk, but as soon as a winning trade comes along, you want to cut your risk as soon as you can. So what could have been potentially an 8% trade ended up being a 2.5% trade, and there's a big difference. Now here's the other trade when I bounced back off the baseline of 100k. This was on the SP500 this time, and I had huge size on this, 15 lots, and I got in pretty much at the bottom of this move. And it was supposed to be my home run trade because, like I said, I'm tired of trading, decision fatigue's kicking in. I just want to just either pass this challenge or just keep a free repeat. But as soon as it spiked up, and it did so pretty fast, I took half the size off within 5 minutes, took the rest of the size off. But if I just sat on my hands for half an hour, that would have been the 10k trade. Instead, I ended up with 2.8%. I know I'm talking in a lot of should've, could've, would'ves, but I know many of you can relate. I'm just trying to make sense of this myself, so we're going to go and look over this table of stats, and it really puts things into perspective. I put all my trades into this table, apart from the last 2 days, which I haven't updated yet. We got stop size and how many lots, etc. on the left, and results on the right. My actual results are in this column here, and the projected results, if I applied a 1 to 2.5 RR, are in this column. So up until the breakdown in discipline on day 8, the majority of these trades were only risking $250, a few 500. It seems that even though managing the trades would have worked out better for cutting losses short, having a fixed risk to reward banked way better profits. My realized result at this point was 3,200 versus 4,200 in total. There was 1 or 2 times where my managed profit worked out better, but in general, fixed risk to reward was better overall. Now past this point, you'll see the results was even more skewed to the fixed risk to reward doing better. Right here, I would have finished the challenge, and at the bottom you can see there's a huge difference between the results. We got 103,000 versus 113,000, and this gap spelled it out for me. So this week, I'm going to initiate that plan I was mentioning earlier. I got 200k challenges ready to go. 1 managed, 1 fixed, and we're going to see the progress as I go along. And the moral of the story is, not fully accepting the risk equals bad trade management, equals decision fatigue, which means a breakdown in discipline, which ultimately means you can no longer trade effectively. And that's whether you're in a winning trade or a losing trade. And here's a gem. Note where the chain reaction starts from. Not fully accepting the risk. But that's another video. So one more thing. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but my Forex funds just released their traders stats for October and November. And it's up on their website, so go check it out. I think you really need to see this because it really puts success rate into perspective. Now, the first thing that stood out to me was only 3% of traders who get to the funded account make it to their first payout. Only 3%, guys. And another fact, every trader that's made it to a record payout has blown their account within 3 weeks. Another interesting fact, My Forex Funds only has 5 traders that's made it to the 8th payout. That's 5 consistent traders on the whole of My Forex Funds. That's just shocking. Like, I don't really know what to think about that. It makes you wonder, I mean, where are all the gurus and their successful students? Like, I'm just saying. Now, at first, I didn't really know what to think about this. I didn't know whether to be disheartened or motivated. When I made that first video about blowing my FTMO account, I honestly thought I was the dumbest trader in the world. I mean, I blew it twice, but seeing this made me realize I'm not really in the minority. I'm in the majority. I'm in the 97%. And actually makes me feel not too bad, to be honest. And I know a lot of you watching have blown challenges and have blown accounts just like me and have kind of gone through that same pain. And after seeing this, we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves, honestly. But one thing I want to say is that we do know that consistency is within our reach. It's just there. That's the frustrating thing about trading. We know we can do it, but it's our mindset and our psychology that hold us back. And if you doubted that before, these stats prove it. We need more than just a technical strategy. Smart money concepts, order blocks, that's all well and good. But without a solid mental game, it's not going to work. I use price action too, don't get me wrong, but for a real edge in our markets, we need to be able to read market psychology and decipher the story it's telling us. We are the market. Retail traders are like the food for the big banks and the market makers, whatever you want to call them. So being self-aware and using our own psychology and emotions for clues on what not to do is very key. That's how I find a lot of my entries personally. And we also need a good understanding of market conditions. You need to be able to also go against the crowd. I'm not talking about picking top and bottoms, but knowing where the crowd is at and what they're getting drawn into. Being able to execute without fear and hesitation, but at the same time have restraint. Sometimes intuition needs to be involved, and that means 10,000 hours of screen time. There's so many facets to being a consistent trader. And on top of that, we got to battle ourselves. We got to remain focused, emotionally balanced, and disciplined. And that's the hardest part of all. And it's what I struggle at most. The point is, nothing's worth doing unless it's hard. That's why we love the game, because we got to be able to overcome ourselves, which any self-aware person knows is the real battle in life. I'm getting too deep, but what I'm trying to say is don't give up. Whether you make it to the end and make loads of money or you become a better person by overcoming the struggles, it's going to be worth it in the end. So many people in the comments have been encouraging and told me not to give up, and I really appreciate it. Trust me, I needed it. And you know how this trading thing gets. It gets stressful sometimes, so thank you. Keep a lookout for more videos next week and comment down below your thoughts on these stats. Love.